At this time, I think we're going to give Katrina our first question. Katrina, someone would like to know if you're planning on pilot testing the community workshops in other communities.
At this time, we're finished pilot testing the workshops. The main purpose of doing the pilot testing last fall was to make sure the curriculum that we had put together actually did work in a variety of community settings. And so pilot testing was done in preparation for the final release. And since we have finalized the workshops, we're not going to be testing this any further, at least from our office. But we really would encourage everyone, as they start teaching it and are learning new things while they're teaching it in their community, to share those experiences with us and let us know how things are going. We've learned a lot from pilot testing and put a lot of that information into the best practices for implementation document that I mentioned. It's also available on the website. But we'd encourage you to test out the workshops in your community and to try it out. We tested it in a variety of settings and believe it'll work well in many different community adult settings.
Awesome. Good answer. Thanks a lot for that. And like Katrina said, the best practices document will be available on our website, health.gov/dietary guidelines, as well as the slides from today where you can review the pilot testing results and data. Sarah, if you're ready to go, I'm going to ask the next question for you. Someone would like to know what your favorite workshop was to teach and why.
I actually think the last workshop, Physical Activity is Key to Living Well, was my favorite, partly because it was kind of surprising. The group that I had initially was very inactive and very resistant, really, to doing the stretch activities or really any kind of physical activity. And like I mentioned earlier, the use of music really, I think, kind of helped lighten up the atmosphere, and people became less self-conscious as they were willing to do that. And I just made the comment, if you don't feel like you can do the activities that we're working on, just move to the music. And so that seemed to help with getting people to be more willing to try new things. And the other thing was, I noticed by the end of the series, many were convinced, because they had been doing these activities at home, that they actually felt better, so they were willing to continue to do this for the future. So I was just so impressed that I heard the comments that the participants would make about changes they had made at home or their breaks at work, or several had formed groups at work that would do activities after work hours, that I was just so impressed that it seemed to make a difference in their daily lives.
Thank you. That is encouraging feedback and experiences from your pilot testing. Katrina, the next question is going to be for you. Again, participants, keep the questions coming. We've got plenty of time to answer those. Someone would like to know if the community workshop materials are printable, downloadable online, and how to access those.
Great question. So at this point, if you notice on your last slide, we have the website of our dietary guidelines site at health.gov/dietary guidelines/workshops. And if you go on that site, you will see the entire series. It's actually a book of nearly 200 pages, so just be mindful that it is a very large file when you open that. But then you can go in and go through each of the individual workshops themselves. So there's a front matter, and then all 6 workshops, and then an appendix section. At this point, you can download each of these. You can print them off. You can make photocopies of the handouts to be able to distribute. And what we're working on right now is being able to get print copies. One of the things we found in pilot testing, we were able to print some of these out, and it was helpful to teach from a book. So we are looking to have a full printed copy, so close to 200 pages of a resource available for everyone come October. And so we have some information about that on our website, and you can keep checking back. In the meantime, we would encourage you just to download the PDF files, and you can go through each of the workshop series. And then separately on the website is listed the handout. As I mentioned, there's a 2-page handout that kind of was the basis for development of each of these workshops. And so the handout is listed separately as a PDF in both English and Spanish. And then in addition to that, you'll also notice on the website that you can download the short video clips as well. So at this point, the website is the best place to go to for all of the information to be able to download it and start teaching it. And then check back soon in October. We'll be able to direct you where to get print copies so you can have a hard version printed out.
Great. Thank you so much. And Sarah, we've got another question for you. Someone would like to know what was one of the biggest challenges you experienced when you were implementing the workshops during pilot testing and how you overcame that.
Yes, that's a good question. Like I'd mentioned earlier, really mine was the movement or physical activity was really initially one of the biggest challenges for me. A lot of my participants like to cook and were interested in experimenting and doing different things from the food side. But the activities that were included with each of the workshops were very varied and interesting in and of themselves. And like I said, supplementing the music with that made them very enjoyable to the participants. Sometimes I would incorporate other activities like Workshop 6. There was a group walk, and it was rather cold that day, so we ended up doing relays using balloons, and any time I could think of something that would make it a little bit more festive and enjoyable from the participants, we tried to do that, and it seemed to work.
I appreciate that feedback, and we know you did some really good things at your pilot testing site and some really creative ways to keep your participants engaged. So thank you for that feedback. Katrina, I've got another question for you. Some of the webinar participants would like to know if the workshops can also be taught in younger populations.
Great question. We designed the workshop series and pilot tested it primarily focused in the adult population, realizing that adults really are the catalyst to teaching children. And so our hope was that if we could provide easy tips and tools and guides that could help adults, they could then in turn help translate these messages into the youth in their families, in their school environments, and in their settings. So while this wasn't necessarily geared toward the youth level to teach it, we're really hoping that the messages that come out of this can be applied as well to youth in the way that parents or administrators or school teachers could be able to share kind of those key important lessons about eating healthy and being active. And also I've seen a few questions asking about specific populations. And I think while this pilot testing was done kind of in a general variety of settings, various educational backgrounds, various literacy levels, we didn't test it specifically, with people that were at risk for diabetes, for example, or with a focus on weight loss. But like I mentioned at the end, you can certainly take this series and tailor it to the group that you're working with. Within the appendix, we have a lot more additional information, things like recipes, there's additional food safety, the Pella Plus program that I mentioned. And so we'd really encourage you to kind of take this series as a starting point and then tailor it and add to it so that it can be of use within your communities.